Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Growth Path. Today, I'm super excited about having another marketer on. Actually, we've had many different people on this podcast, from astronauts all the way down to surfers, all the way down to wingsuit divers.
Dang, I feel like I'm the
the
least exciting. This
no, no,
got quite
no, no,
the
no.
variety.
There might be not as much adrenaline in this one, Janessa. That's for sure. But it's definitely more on par with what we offer as a business as well, in terms of like we're marketers ourselves. I'm a marketer, right? So um I'm really excited to talk to Janessa today. So Janessa is working with Atlassian, who many companies will probably be familiar of, many of our listeners will be familiar with. Atlassian offer everything from Jira all the way down to Confluence, right?
Yeah,
And anybody that's working in any type of IT company or tech company or software company has some form of touch point with Jira or Confluence, right? At some point in their careers, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Love it or hate it, it's probably one of the best tools out there for what it's there for, right? Especially if you're on tech teams, Jira is the go-to, right? For
yeah,
any type of project management, right? And
yeah,
then Confluence for all knowledge storage and also like internal company knowledge. Let's think of it like the old school intranet in a way, right? But
yeah, very much so. I'd
yeah,
tell my parents it's like Wikipedia, but for businesses.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly it, right? And over there at Atlassian, Janessa is a senior demand generation content specialist for Central AI, right? Don't say that 10 times fast, right?
I
But
know.
but so and she's been with Atlassian now for the past 2 years, or just two
Hmm.
years and 1 month, I've seen. So you've just had your Atlassian anniversary. So congratulations there.
Thank you. My
Well,
Atlassiversary, as it were.
uh, did they say that? Did they say
So
that
always a
internally?
good time.
Of
Yes.
course, very good. Of course, of course. Okay, and
Um,
hey, look, we're going to talk about a couple of things here today. But first of all, thanks for joining us, Janessa. Great to have you on.
yeah, it's such a pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Andy.
Sure. So tell us, before we get into it, a little bit about what you do. So that role, right? So you're obviously under
Yeah.
the demand gen team. It's
Yes.
also a content focused role within the demand generation team, right?
Yes.
Um, and then it's also part of the last part of it is interesting to me as well, because it's central AI. So central
Yeah.
AI, let's start with that. What does that mean exactly?
It's a great question. We've had some people internally ask that as well. So, Central AI essentially encompasses all of the different touch points that we have at Atlassian for our AI products. So, the main one that I work with is Rovo, but then we have things called federated AI features, which show up across all of our platform and ecosystem, because we've got quite the quite the tally of different things going on within all of our different apps and spots. And so even things like Loom, which we acquired a couple years back, that's one of our products, and it has a lot of different AI touch points. So I get to look at all of the different areas across all of the different apps that we have to see where are folks interacting with AI, where might we need where are folks struggling with it, where might we need guidance, where is some of the touch points that they might need additional help, and where are the places where it's not working, which is always a fun place to go down the Reddit rabbit holes and community forums to see like what's not working. But it's really valuable information, and I love getting to do it. So getting to touch on all of those different things. And that's
Love a
kind of
Reddit.
the central idea.
Love a Reddit rabbit hole, by the way. Big fan.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
Yeah, that and YouTube, Reddit. Although Reddit is more what I understand why you're going after Reddit. So let's focus on the Reddit
Mhm.
piece, right?
Yeah.
In terms of so you mentioned something there um about finding problems within the
Yes.
like how people what isn't resonating, for example, or what people
Yes.
don't get, right? And you're
Yes.
going onto Reddit and you're figuring
Mhm.
out, okay, what are people saying about
Yeah.
something that a product that Atlassian has to offer, which is an AI focused product. So let's take Rovo for
Mhm.
example,
Yeah.
and they're saying X, I don't get XYZ about Rovo, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You're taking that information and doing what
Mhm.
exactly?
Great question. So I actually try to look across a whole bunch of different areas. So not just Reddit, because Reddit can trend towards the negative, but it gives you a good perspective, as we know as marketers, across all of the different areas where we want to see the negative as well as like what's working, what's not. So I look across Reddit, the help channels that we have, the support teams. I look at sales records through Gong and all of these different areas across the life cycle of a customer. So not just when we're talking to folks and their prospective customers, but also as they're building their AI presence, they're expanding licenses and seats and whatnot, to see what are some of those sticky points, and then what are the things that are sticking points too, that are really working and resonating with them. And I take that information for my team and I work out how to build content around it. So whether that comes in the form of a webinar series showcasing here's how you can do different things with AI, here are some of the things that you might have been confused about, and here's how you can actually get a better understanding of them. We'll walk you through it step by step, or it could be a series of community posts walking folks through here's kind of how, like, top FAQs that we get about these areas of business. And then also from a demand generation perspective, building that into our campaign cycles, making sure that in any nurture series that we're doing, in any content syndication, in any spot where we're doing like paid social or display advertisement, where those messages are really resonating so that we don't come across as tone deaf. No one wants to do that as a B2B business, or say like, our AI is the best, especially with so many different businesses talking about AI now, with it being such a point of contention in many of the personal spaces too. The worst thing I think a business could do is to come across as tone deaf with that and not listening to its customer base. So that's something that I really try to keep an ear to the ground with. And it comes from my background too. I was a former journalist. And so I try to take that into every marketing space that I'm in, of really figuring out like the WWJD, what would a journalist do, essentially, framework of like the who, what, when, where, and why. And so if I'm taking information in, I always want to make sure that I'm framing it in a way that makes sense with the story. So like not just comments or threads that people are getting frustrated by, but what's their story? Who are they? What's happening in the background? What part of the ecosystem are they living in within the different sphere of business and whatnot? And how might that connect to other folks' story? And how might we make a better customer experience for them and build something from a content perspective that could really help to solve their problem?
Are you involved early on with the initial messaging and the go-to-market of the product as well?
Yes, I do get to see kind of like the bird's eye view of that. So my role kind of sits in between our product marketing function, our demand generation function, our lifecycle marketing function, and then all of our performance marketing and whatnot. So I do get a very clear view of kind of the go-to-market function, how we're positioning AI and our AI products against the rest of the field too.
Is there a lot of like confusion out there at the minute in terms of what AI products do? Like, I think the issue is we've seen it ourselves. We've launched we've had 4 AI product launches in the past 4 months across our customer base. Like everybody's launching an AI product or something and none of them are ready to. Right. No. So like, and the messaging is developing over time. So you're like building the plane and fixing the plane at the same time.
Yes.
So like, I would imagine that you are a rather busy person at the minute when it comes to that, right?
Yes. So it's funny. I came from a background where, I was in journalism, then I was in nonprofit marketing communications, then I pivoted over to tech and private equity in a more startup or smaller team environment. And so I thought that was the busiest I was going to be. And then I joined big giant company Atlassian, and I was like, okay, things are slower moving here. We're just kind of there's more bureaucracy, there's things and whatnot. And I was kind of looking forward to that. But then I joined the AI team and I'm like, oh no, this is actually where I get to put my startup skills to good use, because things pivot on a dime so quickly. The market changes so quickly that we have to just be ready to do things immediately. So where some teams across the cross-functional areas might have 6 months in between when they need to refresh their positioning or refresh their content strategy or refresh their go-to-market strategy. We're really doing this, I wouldn't say on a monthly basis, but really on a quarterly basis. At the very least, we're refreshing, and we're always on the lookout for market trends, what's happening and whatnot. And your point was a good one, which is that so many businesses, whether you're a small business or an individual consumer or a giant enterprise business or something, they're starting to roll these tools out. And I see this all the time with the customers that we're building advocacy playbooks for, or adoption playbooks or frameworks, where we're leading these workshops or trying to showcase what they can do with this. And a huge problem that I've run into, whether I'm talking to customers in person or across different digital forums, is their information is tangled. It's messy. Not a new problem. It happens a lot, especially with all of the information that we have available to us, but especially if you have any kind of data that's been sitting for a long time. We see this in CRMs as marketers all the time, where it's like you get a messy CRM and you're like, oh my goodness, this is going to take me actual years to fix. This is insane. But it is a huge issue that I've seen with AI rollouts as you go along, because so many folks are just like, okay, I press the magic button for AI. The marketing has said that it's going to do A, B, and C. It's going to make everything magical. It's going to fix everything. And then they get to the product and they just turn the button on and they're like, wow, this sucks. This did not work the way that I thought it was going to at all. What's wrong with it? And so something that I advise customers on a lot, or some of the folks that we're working with, is to ensure that as they're building out their process, that they're really identifying how clean is their data beforehand, so that the AI can actually work the best that it can. Because otherwise you're just giving it a whole bunch of tangled web of information, and it's gonna do an okay job from what I've seen, but it's not necessarily gonna do the best job, and it's definitely gonna struggle. Just like handing a human a giant box of files that have been like 20 years in the making, and there's no rhyme or reason to the organization structure, there's no rhyme or reason to who put what information where. You're like, okay, sort this, figure it out. They're gonna do it, but it's gonna take them a great deal of time, and AI it might do it a little bit faster, but it's still going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of compute power, and it's going to take a lot of token usage, which, as usage-based pricing becomes bigger, that becomes a bigger and bigger issue, because folks, they don't want to be spending all of their money just to have AI detangle their data.
Yeah, trash in, trash out, right? That's the
trash in, trash out. Yeah. It's not a new concept.
No, definitely not. And honestly, that's like a concept that's I've seen like I've been in tech now for too long, 15 years or so, right? And it's before, like, AI has only really become a thing in the past 3 years, 2-3 years, right?
Yeah.
Or at least at the dawn of, there's been talk of AI for maybe the past 6 or 7 years, but was it actually AI is questionable, right? The piece that was there before was probably some form of machine learning rather than an AI piece, right?
Yeah.
But we to your point from before, you said something that, like, hey, customers think they just press the button and then it's like, oh, they've got this amazing thing that's working so well and it solved all the world's problems, right? But we've always sold that type of stuff in tech. It's always been that way. This is going to solve all the world's problems.
Yeah.
And it's like, I used to work for a company that used to call it vaporware, right? So it doesn't really, what you're selling doesn't really exist. The message that you're selling is BS, right? But definitely, I think the speed at which, though, these products are coming to market at the moment, and the speed of which the developments are being made within those products to make them less vaporware-like is quicker than we've ever seen, which is great, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, it's a little bit crazy at the moment in terms of being a marketer, because let's move away from Atlassian a little bit. Let's just talk marketer to marketer a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, what I'm getting all the time is now CEOs coming to me and being like, hey, I've created this entire marketing plan via Claude. This, we don't need marketing. And I'm like, okay, that's a bad strategy. That is it's not because it's a bad strategy to Claude. It's a bad strategy to rely on something that is going to just agree with you all the time, right?
It is. And then who's going to implement that plan? Who's going to iterate on that plan when something doesn't work within that? What I like to say too is, like, well, to really quick, go back to your point of vaporware too. I think that that's really important as you're looking at, if you're a marketer that does have to, which many folks in like B2B or any kind of tech role are having to do, is like position their AI. I'd say one thing that we've learned, just like I've learned at being at Atlassian and going through all these different iterations of our AI messaging, is transparency. So letting folks know, like obviously as a marketer, you do have to put a positive spin on things and whatnot, but being very crystal clear, especially on any educational forums, any place where you're talking customer to customer, letting them know what some of the shortcomings are really helps. And folks want to talk to a human. They want to have grace for people. And so letting them know some of the shortcomings, but also what they can do instead, I think that transparency has helped a ton, at least from what I've seen. With customer frustration, with folks feeling upset by things. And that's not a new concept in marketing, but it's just something, especially as we're moving so fast, that letting people know that there's a person behind it, that you're doing your best, you're trying your best. And obviously, you're getting paid the dollars to do something. So you should be trying your best. You should be doing the best that you can to make the best experience for your customer, but also letting them know that like it's fast moving, the realities of what's happening, and helping them kind of go back to, so that they have the correct expectations, because expectations can ruin reality if those expectations are not met with what's actually happening. But then when we're looking at it from the side of like a CEO coming in, or your resident favorite leader coming in and saying like, well, I just built this whole thing in Claude, and I think that this should be our new go-to-market engine. I think that we should launch a campaign tomorrow with this. And you're like, oh, awesome, thanks.
Yeah.
One thing that I try and kind of de-escalate down with is kind of, again, setting expectations. So especially if it's someone in power or someone that has, they write or sign your paychecks, and you're like, well, I don't want to say this is a bad idea, but it's a bad idea. One thing that I like to do or advise other like knowledge workers on and whatnot, because this unfortunately doesn't just happen for marketing, but I've seen it start to happen for legal or procurement teams, or it happens to the poor developers all the time are getting handed vibe code, and they're like, I vibe coded this. Maybe it's their CEO, maybe it's their marketer, maybe it's whoever, and they're like, just put it into the code base now. That's a thing, right? And they're like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. One thing that can help with that is setting expectations correctly, showcasing that you know what you're doing. You've had the years of experience, whether you're a marketer or developer or whoever, and you've built skills in that craft. There's a reason why you're working in that craft, why you have the experience that you do. And so asking a couple of clarifying questions can really help to set the expectation for someone that's just coming in and saying like, well, I did this and I can do your job now because I have AI on my side. It can help them understand the magnitude of what they're asking you to do. And so if it's the example of a CEO coming in with a marketing plan that they just drew up in Claude suddenly, asking some clarifying questions politely of like, okay, this is a great plan. However, I would like to know a little bit more about our audience positioning, and then coming in with information that only you would know about your customers, because obviously you're the marketer, you have the expertise, you know what you're doing, hopefully. And so bringing in some of that expertise and interest to showcase like, I actually might know a little bit more about this than Claude, can really help to set the stage and expectations of like, oh, okay, so you mean I can't just plug and play with this whole plan. There has to be nuances. There's a reason that we've tried some of these things before, and here are some of the data to showcase whether that worked or didn't work. And then you can also still use some of the information that they've given you, depending on, using your judgment as a marketer, whether there's any value to it or not. You can say, hey, this might be something that we haven't thought of or we haven't revisited in a while. Let me try and check some of this out. But there's a lot of ways around just wholesale accepting whoever is, writing your paycheck, sending you the things, accepting their whole plan without some compromises within it, and without I think it's actually an opportunity for a lot of marketers that they might be missing to showcase their expertise, to showcase why they're valuable. It's something that I teach in a lot of internal marketing workshops for AI too, is that if you want to showcase your skill set and why you still matter in an age of AI where everyone is replaceable, everyone is, you're able to just plug and play with something in Claude or ChatGPT or whatever, is to showcase like your special sparkle or your uniqueness in what you do and how hard that you work to do something and the expertise that can't be replaced by a machine. And so people talk a lot about soft skills or some of those like empathy and other pieces. That's absolutely something that helps in an age of AI as well. But also your expertise and the way that you do things. It's a Christopher Penn, if you're familiar with him, he does different marketing data analysis work and whatnot. He talked about this concept of AI does a lot of like lateral thinking. And so it's thinking like, okay, it just does a lot of thinking where it's like, okay, A equals B equals C. And so that's what we should do. But humans have the unique and special ability, and I think marketers particularly, to see beyond that kind of thinking into how can a product manager do this? Okay, how can a salesperson do this? And then incorporate it. How can a philosopher do this, or an astronaut or a space engineer? And take those concepts and incorporate them into how we run a marketing campaign, into how we do things as marketers, into how we position our products and whatnot. And that's something that AI can't do, at least at this juncture and point in time. And so this is an opportunity when you're handed something by someone that's just like, it's simple, just plug it in, to showcase that you actually have thinking skills beyond just that one-sized way of thinking.
I think that's really good advice, and I think people can take heed of that. I see a lot of marketers, especially in fast-growing tech startups, their CEOs are very intense, mostly male dominated fields. Let's call a spade here, right?
Yep.
And a lot of testosterone and very, very sure of themselves, right?
Yes.
And I see it time and time again that more junior marketer, not even junior, but people that might have what you just mentioned there, right?
I've seen it happen to VPs even, where it's like they've got 35 years of experience in the field and they're being handed these things, and some of them just acquiesce and they're like, okay, I guess so. And I'm like, no, you've got 30-something years of experience. You can do this.
I think it's two things, to be very honest with you. I think it's one, that they maybe don't have the confidence, and two, that they don't know enough about AI themselves to say to prove that the CEO is wrong, or their superior, whoever it might be, is wrong, right?
Yeah.
And I'm seeing like crazy things happen, right? I'm seeing people like CEOs like cancel CRM contracts and say, "Oh, I've just vibe coded a CRM," I'm like, that is wild. Oh no, it's okay. We have it in Lovable. I was like, okay, but like, what's that? Like, first of all, is that safe? That's all your customer data. Second of all, like I read it on LinkedIn that their CEO came to them and said, "Hey, we've cancelled HubSpot because we can code something ourselves." And the marketing team were like, "Okay," and the CEO went ahead and coded something, and then they wanted to replicate what HubSpot was doing, and it was going to cost them like $1 million on code, like on what you call it, tokens, right? They needed to pay like $1 million to get what they were looking to achieve, and the CEO was like, "Oh, can we go back to HubSpot and reinstate our contract, because this is not what I thought it was going to be at all," So
And I think, to your point, Andy, too, that's something that I think marketers can arm themselves with. That sounds like kind of like scary language, but it is, you can be in a little bit of a defense mode as well as an offensive mode, to showcase why your skills matter, why your job matters, especially in this current time. I think it's relevant at any time too, but I think something that a lot of marketers can get intimidated by, and what I try and preach against, if you will, is marketers being intimidated by like the technical nuances and language of AI. It's not that scary. People like to use a lot of terminology that to kind of gatekeep over time, especially when it's something as magical seeming as AI. But AI, at the end of the day, it's lines of code, it's predictive language, like it's predictive modeling. And this is nothing that we haven't seen as marketers. So if you've ever used Boolean logic in your CRM, if you've ever done like a HubSpot workflow and you're looking at like all of the different pieces, if this, then that, if you're looking at a list and figuring out how much these titles in an audience respond to this kind of messaging and whatnot, you've done a lot of the thinking behind what an LLM is doing as well. You might not have the coding knowledge, and so that can be a little bit odd. But even in your example that you just gave, Andy, having the basic knowledge of like, okay, I'm personally not a developer. I don't know how to code. I'm learning Python right now, and it is slow going. Let me tell you, quite slow going. And that's just for fun. I just think it's interesting. But I do know enough to know that if a CEO is building a HubSpot replacement or something that has a lot of customer data inside of it, or anything that has any sort of complicated backing behind it, what they'll get at the end of the day in a Lovable or something of that ilk is something that looks really good. So the UI looks good at surface level. You're like, oh, awesome, I did it. Fantastic. What you're going to struggle with is the UX and the back-end development. And then also, you're going to have to patch things over time. That's what developers are paid for. That's what back-end people do and whatnot. And so understanding that it's going to be that yes, it's going to be the one-time token price of whatever you've built this pretty UI with and whatnot. But then you're also going to have to spend the money on patching, security, vulnerabilities, anything that you want to be safe and protected, especially something like customer data, is going to be hugely dependent on how up to date you keep your code, you keep everything within this new app that you've built. And that can cost more than multiple full-time roles if you just hired a developer or hired this SaaS company to do some of these things for you. That's why it exists as a service. And so as a marketer, you can come back with at least that knowledge of like, okay, I know in theory how much some of this is going to cost, especially if they're doing something like trying to replace your entire CRM. And you can at least go to them with a sort of, okay, we can do this. This is going to be the projected analysis of how much this is going to cost us and the effort, because time and effort also cost money, as we've seen time and again. It's not just, oh, I'll do a social post. Oh, I'll do a campaign. No problem. It's just magic. It's happened. We know how much time and effort and thought goes into these things, especially if we want them to be good and we want them to resonate with our audience. So going to your CEO or your board, even if you're the CEO, because I've seen boards as well where they're just like, the CEO is supposed to have all the power, but really, the board's in charge. And the board is like, well, we just would like you to do AI it, make it AI-able. And they're like, okay, well, here's the analysis, here's what it's going to cost us over time, so we can do this. And this is a common job technique of like, we can do some of this, but here's what's going to fall by the wayside if we do pick one. And kind of presenting them with the options. So at the very least, they have a better idea of what they're getting themselves into. And it's not so much a black and white, oh, it's cost savings. It's going to be easier. We can reduce headcount. We can do whatever. It's giving them a better picture and a more full-fledged idea of what this will actually do over time.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, you did a very good impression there of a VC on a board. You could be a very good VC there. Just AI.
Thank you. Just AI it. Yeah, it's from my private equity days talking to the boards. Just do this. Easy.
It definitely resonated with you. I have to say, like, it stuck with you. Hey, look, we're just at the end of it now, Janessa. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. That was really interesting. Where can people find you?
So they can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active. My husband likes to joke that I'll check LinkedIn before I check my text messages. So they can find me on LinkedIn. Other than that, I'm out and about on the different areas. You can find me on different Atlassian pages and whatnot. On conference speaking ideas, I also post all those on LinkedIn. So that's my main place to be.
Make sure that's shared in the description of the episode. Janessa, thanks a million. It's been great speaking with you.
Thanks, Andy. It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
worries at all. Guys, this has been another episode of Growth Path. Tune in next week for more great content. Thanks again, Janessa.
Thanks. Bye, y'all.